One of the many changes that happened for me as a result of kind of blowing up my life so thoroughly and putting myself in a position where there were many things that were simply beyond my control is that I stopped making so many plans. And I suppose that's an important skill when you're going through crisis, and an important ability to have when you're in prison. But in the old days when I was a storyteller, I wrote down every story and I memorized it. Whether it was in verse or whether it was a prose story, I memorized it. And when I performed it, there were small variations, but it was pretty much the same way every time. And one of the changes that's happened here is that I don't want to try to do that. It feels too narrow and too small, and just somehow it's not reflective of the changes that have happened to me in this whole process. So I wasn't planning to do more posts on this chain, but a couple things have changed, so I wanted to do there are a couple things that I want to try to speak to. When I first got out of prison, I went to central Vermont, and I didn't make much of a footprint, and it was a pretty deliberate choice. I knew I wasn't ready to be a very public person yet. I needed to, in many ways I was really fundamentally starting over, and I needed to get my feet on the ground in really basic ways before I started having, or at least seeking out, a more public life, or actively talking to the many people who were affected by what I'd done. But this time, as I'm leaving the Northeast Kingdom and going back to central Vermont, I decided that in a way that it didn't feel right to do the same thing again. I feel like since so many people were affected by what I did, both the people who were harmed and lost money individually, and also just a kind of generalized violation of the community, that I wanted to just say that I'm coming home and to begin to take steps to explain what happened. So I wrote a post on Front Porch Forum, which some of you will be familiar with, and posted it, and saying that I was coming back, and just owning that for some people, well, that there would be different responses to that. And I put a link on the post to the first clip on this YouTube channel, and invited people to watch if they wanted to. And I noticed a lot of people did watch, and I got some very, very interesting responses that I'm really grateful for. Some people were very welcoming and glad that I was back, and glad that I was speaking openly about what happened. And some people were pretty honest about still being angry with me and feeling the violation of what I did. And I'm grateful for all of those responses. And there was a woman who talked to me about, I don't want to give too much information because I do want to protect her privacy, but her daughter has been in and out of prison, and it was just, she was glad to hear me speaking openly about it, and at least trying to take responsibility for what I did. So that was very just encouraging to hear. And of course, there were also painful ones. The most obvious one was a woman who sent me an email, and she was not bitter. She was just very direct, and she said, my friend trusted you because her father was a friend of yours, and she invested in your film, and she felt very violated by what you did and by the deception of the whole project. And I want you to know that she died while you were in prison, and that she's never going to get to hear your apology, and she's never going to get to decide whether she wants to forgive you or not. And of course that's painful to hear. And of course I knew it was there. And of course I knew that that's part of what I'm opening to. And I guess what it comes down to me is just one of the things that I've learned from myself is that sometimes open is open, and I don't always get to choose what comes in or out that opening. And I keep coming back to the old phrase that you can't heal what you won't feel. So I'm grateful to all of you who responded, even the people who are still angry with me. And that's it for now. I'll probably do one more post, but thank you for responding, and I'll be back here soon. Thanks again.